city, but we're really glad everybody can come down here. The Living Wall was started last year by Nick Shadi and myself, and Matt joined us for the second version. It's basically a 96-foot long wall of 12 micro dwellings. The idea is that the students will spend the night in these projects tonight, weather pending, if we're going to actually be able to do that. Last year's project was very similar. There's a few tweaks from the projects, as you can see on the one we're standing on. Formally a lot more complex, and thus that led to a lot more difficulties and creative ideas about how they would be constructed. It's not in a line anymore. It's kind of a boomerang shape, and with the kink is somewhere down, about 2/3 down at that end. And the projects grew substantially. They're a lot bigger. That necessitated itself when each project was required to fit everybody in their team. So each one of these is meant to house 6 or 7 people, given how many members of each team. Other than that, they're a lot taller this year. So the peak being the first project we're going to start, which is about 12 feet, about 3.5 feet higher than anything we built last year.
They had to accommodate a very simple program. The volume was given to them intentionally too small, so that in order to accommodate the program, they had to manipulate and expand on the volume. The program included 5 or 6 sleeping areas or resting areas, a way to get in, and a way to move to the resting areas. So in the early phases, they began to work at 1 inch equals 1 foot in scale. They began to manipulate and strategize how to manipulate the volumes and to create openings, to create ways to get light and air to flow through. Some of the challenges or some of the issues that we had in mind was to challenge notions of typical notions of occupation, and I think every student dealt with that at first in individual projects, and then they started to work in groups. They were discovering social dynamics and responsibilities of urban living, because they were both working in groups and collaborating, but also dealing with the fact that they had to make a linear community of micro dwellings, and they had to share party wall conditions. So in many cases, with their negotiations, the interesting spatial conditions began to develop between the micro dwellings, exterior conditions to hang around and have fun.
All of these projects were built as components, smaller components of a larger whole, within the freshman studios and in the shop. And this process taught the students a lot of things regarding efficiency, in terms of being able to transport these projects from one place to another, and also in terms of how a bigger project can be consist of smaller units, and that saves a lot of time and energy on the site itself. Because these things were built within that shop, it's easier to control the quality of the project, and it means a lot less time spent on the site. And I think a lot was learned by the students in terms of that process.